The armor stood in its glass case, glowing softly in the dark vault. It had been there for 3,000 years. The Galactic Council found it on a dead planet called Ashran Prime, buried in the ruins of an ancient race called the Precursors. Nobody knew what happened to the Precursors. They just disappeared one day, leaving behind empty cities and mysterious technology that nobody could understand. The armor was their greatest creation. It looked like it was made of liquid silver that somehow held its shape. Strange symbols moved across its surface like living things. The symbols changed and shifted, never staying the same for long. When light hit the armor, it seemed to glow from within, as if it had its own star burning inside. Everyone wanted the armor. The legends said it could make a warrior unstoppable. It could protect against any weapon. It could make someone 100 times stronger, 100 times faster. It could heal wounds and adapt to any danger. With the armor, a single soldier could face an entire army and win. But there was one problem. The armor rejected everyone who tried to wear it. Commander Hajin walked slowly around the glass case. He was a Draken, a species that looked like walking lizards with tough scales and sharp teeth. His scales were dark green with scars from many battles. He had been guarding the armor for 20 years. In that time, he had watched hundreds of people try to bond with it. All of them failed. Some failures were gentle. The armor would simply push them away with an invisible force. They would press their hands against something they could not see, unable to get closer than 3 meters. Those were the lucky ones. Others were not so lucky. The armor would let them get close, even touch it. Then pain would hit them like lightning. Their bodies would shake and collapse. Some stayed unconscious for days. Some woke up but could not speak or move properly anymore. Their brains had been damaged by something the doctors called neural feedback. 6 people had died trying to wear the armor. Hajin remembered each one. A Vraxian warrior whose heart stopped. A mindweaver whose brain simply shut down. A cybernetic soldier whose implants exploded inside his body. The deaths made the armor even more famous. Warriors saw it as the ultimate challenge. If they could wear it, they would prove they were the greatest fighter in the galaxy. Dr. Mirai entered the vault, her 4 arms carrying data tablets. She was a creche, short and insect-like with large compound eyes that saw in ways other species could not. She had been studying the armor longer than anyone else alive. Another request, she said, her voice soft and musical. A human wants to try. Hajin's tail twitched. It was a sign he was annoyed. A human? They have only been in space for 200 years. They are children compared to the other species. What makes this one think he can succeed? Mirai set down her tablets and looked at the armor through the glass. His name is Taiho. He is not a soldier. He is not a scientist or a politician. He works in salvage. He repairs old ships and sells their parts. A junk dealer? Hajin laughed, but it was not a happy sound. It was harsh and mocking. This is insulting. The greatest warriors of the Vraxian Dominion could not bond with the armor. They can break steel with their bare hands. The mindweavers of Talaxis can move objects with their thoughts. The mechanical collective has soldiers who are more machine than flesh. All of them failed. And now a human who picks through garbage wants to try? He has a theory, Mirai said quietly. He says everyone has been approaching the armor wrong.
He thinks it is not looking for power.
He thinks it is looking for something else. What else could there be? Hajin turned away from the case. The armor was built for war. The precursors created it to fight. Of course it wants a powerful warrior. Maybe, Mirai said. Or maybe we have been making assumptions. We do not really know what the precursors wanted. We only know what we want. Hajin was silent for a moment. He had never thought about it that way. Let him try then. Let him fail like all the others. Maybe it will teach humans to be more humble. 3 days later, Taiho arrived at the Council Fortress. His ship was old and patched with mismatched panels. It looked like it had been repaired 1,000 times with whatever materials were available. The name painted on the side was Resilient Hope, but some letters had faded away. Hajin met Taiho in the waiting room outside the vault. The human was not impressive. He was average height for his species with a lean build that came from hard work rather than military training. His hair was dark and messy, falling across his eyes. His hands were rough and calloused. He wore a simple jumpsuit covered in old stains and patches. A small toolkit hung from his belt. You understand the risks? Hajin asked. His voice was formal and cold. 6 people have died attempting this. 39 more suffered permanent injuries. The odds are not in your favor. Taiho nodded. He did not seem nervous. I read all the reports. I know what happened to them. Then you know this is probably suicide. Maybe. Taiho rubbed his jaw. There was a small scar there, old and faded. Or maybe everyone has been doing it wrong. Dr. Mirai approached them, moving quickly on her multiple legs. Please explain your theory. It's simple, Taiho said. He looked at the vault door as if he could see through it to the armor beyond. Everyone treats it like a weapon. They try to control it, dominate it, take its power. But I have spent years working with precursor technology. I have pulled apart their engines and computers and tools. I have learned some of their language from the symbols on their devices. He pulled out a small data pad and showed them images of precursor writing. See these repeated patterns? Everyone thinks they are about conquest or power. But they are not. They are about partnership. Working together, the precursors did not write like conquerors. They wrote like friends. Hajin stared at the images. He had never learned the precursor language. It was considered too difficult, too alien. You are saying the armor wants a friend? That is ridiculous, is it? Taiho met his eyes. The human did not look away or seem intimidated. The precursors were destroyed by something. We do not know what, but it was bad enough to wipe out their entire civilization. Maybe they built the armor not as a weapon of war, but as a companion, someone to stand with them when everything else fell apart. The room was quiet. Mirai's eyes moved in complex patterns, a sign she was thinking hard. Finally, she gestured toward the door. Your attempt is approved. We will watch from the observation room. Good luck, Taiho. Hajin wanted to say something else to warn the human one more time, but Taiho was already walking toward the vault door. He moved with quiet confidence like someone who had made up his mind and would not be changed. The door opened with a heavy sound. Beyond it, the armor waited in the darkness, glowing like a small sun. Taiho stepped inside and the door closed behind him with a final boom. In the observation room, Hajin and Mirai watched the monitors. Sensors tracked every detail. Taiho's heartbeat, his brainwaves, the armor's energy patterns. Guards stood ready nearby in case something went wrong. Medical teams waited on standby. Do you think he will succeed? Mirai asked softly. Hajin watched as Taiho walked slowly toward the armor. No, but I hope he survives. There is something about him. He is different from the others. Yes, Mirai agreed. He is calm. Not excited or eager, just calm. On the screen, Taiho stopped 3 meters from the armor. The glow intensified, sensing his presence. And then the human did something strange. He sat down on the floor. What is he doing? Hajin leaned forward. They watched as Taiho crossed his legs and got comfortable. He was not trying to reach for the armor. He was not preparing to fight or push through its defenses. He was just sitting there looking at it quietly. And then he started to talk. Taiho sat on the cold metal floor and looked at the armor. The light from it was warm on his face, but not hot. It felt almost alive, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. He could see the symbols moving across its surface, flowing like water. Hey there, he said softly. His voice was gentle, the way someone might talk to a scared animal. My name is Taiho. I know you have had a rough time. A lot of people have tried to use you. They wanted your power. They wanted to control you. In the observation room, Hajin frowned. He is talking to it like it is a person. Maybe it is, Mirai said. Her compound eyes were focused on the armor's energy readings. Look at the patterns. They are changing. The armor's light flickered. It was subtle, but the sensors caught it. The hostile energy field that usually pushed people away was still there, but it seemed less aggressive. More curious, Taiho continued talking. I am not here to take anything from you. I just fix things for a living. Old ships, broken equipment, things that other people have given up on. I am good at not giving up. He slowly uncrossed his legs and moved a bit closer. Just one small movement. The armor's energy field expanded outward, crackling in the air. It was a warning. Alarms started beeping in the observation room. I know you are scared, Taiho said, not stopping. Or maybe angry. Maybe you are just tired of people trying to use you. I understand that. I have felt that way too. He took another small step forward. The energy field touched his skin now. It felt like static electricity making his hair stand up. It hurt a little, but not too much. Not like the pain that had destroyed other candidates. Here's the thing about humans, Taiho said with a small smile. We are pretty stubborn. We do not know when to quit. My sister Hijin always says I am too stubborn for my own good. She is probably right. Another step. The light from the armor grew brighter, almost blinding. In the observation room, Hajin stood up quickly. He is going to be hurt. We should stop this. But Mirai held up a hand. Wait, look at his neural readings. There is no damage. The armor is not attacking him. Taeho was now close enough to touch the armor. His hand was shaking as he reached out. The air around the armor was thick with energy. It made his skin tingle and his ears ring. Every instinct told him to back away, to run. Instead, he stopped. And then he did something that made everyone watching gasp in surprise. He pulled his hand back. He took a step backward, then another. And then he sat down on the floor again, farther away than before. You know what? Taeho said, getting comfortable. I do not think we need to rush this. We have time. I can wait. Hajin stared at the screen in disbelief. What is he doing? He got so close. Why did he retreat? Mirai's eyes were moving in rapid patterns again. Because he is giving it a choice. He is not forcing anything. Oh, this is fascinating. Taeho pulled a small pack from his belt and took out a protein bar. He unwrapped it slowly and took a bite. These things taste terrible, he said to the armor. Like cardboard mixed with chemicals. But they keep you alive when you are working on a salvage job for 3 days straight. He chewed thoughtfully. You know, I once found a precursor ship in the outer rim. Just floating there, dead in space for who knows how long. Everyone said it was too damaged to salvage. But I spent 6 months working on it. Talked to it every day while I fixed the engines. Told it stories about Earth, about the ocean and the rain. And you know what? That ship started working again. The other salvagers said it was impossible, but I knew better. You just have to be patient with old things. The armor's light had stopped growing brighter. It held steady now, still pulsing gently. Taeho finished his protein bar and wadded up the wrapper. I am going to stay here for a while, he said. Just sit here and keep you company. Is that okay? You do not have to do anything. We can just exist in the same space. Hours passed. Taeho sat there, sometimes talking, sometimes quiet. He told the armor about his childhood on Earth, about learning to fix engines from his grandfather, about the first time he went into space and felt so small under all those stars. In the observation room, the day shift ended and the night shift began. Hajin stayed watching. He could not explain why, but something about this felt different. Mirai stayed too, taking notes and monitoring the sensors. The armor's energy signature is changing, she said quietly. It is becoming less defensive, more receptive. When night came to the fortress, Taeho pulled a sleeping bag from his pack. He had brought supplies, planning to stay as long as needed. He rolled out the sleeping bag on the floor, still talking to the armor. I am going to sleep now, he said. But I will be here when you wake up. If you wake up, do you sleep? I do not really know how any of this works. He lay down and closed his eyes. Within minutes, his breathing became slow and steady. He was asleep. The armor's light dimmed slightly, as if it too was resting. The next morning, Taeho woke up and stretched. His back hurt from sleeping on the hard floor, but he did not complain. He pulled out a small camping stove and made instant coffee. The smell filled the vault. Want some? He asked the armor, then laughed. No, I guess not. You probably do not eat or drink. He spent the day talking more. He told stories about the different aliens he had met in his travels. He described the beauty of a nebula he had flown through once, where the gas clouds glowed purple and green. He talked about his ship, the Resilient Hope, and how he had rebuilt it 3 times from parts salvaged from junkyards. People keep telling me to get a new ship, he said. But I do not want a new ship. I want my ship. It is not about having the best or the newest. It is about having something that is yours, something you understand. By the second day, other council members had heard about the human who was just sitting in the vault. Some came to watch through the observation window. They whispered and pointed, confused by what they were seeing. Why is he not trying? Asked a Vraxian general. He just sits there. Maybe that is the point, Mirai said. Maybe trying too hard is the problem. On the 3rd day, Taeho started asking the armor questions. He did not expect answers, but he asked anyway. What was it like being built by the precursors? Were they kind to you? Did they treat you well? He paused as if listening. I hope they did. I hope they appreciated you for more than just what you could do for them. The armor's light flickered in a new pattern. The sensors picked up something strange, a rhythm that almost looked like communication. On the 4th day, Hajin himself came into the vault. He walked carefully, staying far from the armor's energy field. Taiho looked up from where he was sitting. "Commander," Taiho said with a small nod. "This is pointless," Hajin said, but his voice was less harsh than before. "The armor is just technology. It is not a living thing. It cannot hear you." "Are you sure?" Taiho looked at the armor. "The scans show it as part organic, right? A hybrid of biological and mechanical systems. The precursors grew it as much as they built it. Maybe it is more alive than we think." Hajin had no answer to that. He studied the human for a moment. "Why are you really doing this? What do you hope to gain?" Taiho thought about the question. "Honestly, I am not sure. Maybe nothing. But I have this feeling that the armor has been alone for a very long time, and being alone is hard. I know what that is like. So even if nothing else happens, at least it had some company for a few days." Hajin left without another word, but he was thinking about what Taiho had said. That night, Taiho had strange dreams. He saw darkness, vast and empty. He felt loneliness deeper than space, older than stars. He saw hands reaching out but finding nothing. Just emptiness and silence stretching on forever. He woke suddenly, his heart beating fast. The vault was quiet except for the gentle hum of the armor's energy field, but something felt different. The light had changed. It was softer now, warmer, less like staring at the sun and more like sitting by a fireplace. Taiho sat up slowly. "Did you just show me your dreams?" he asked quietly. "Or were those my dreams about you?" The armor pulsed once, gently. "You have been so lonely," Taiho said, his voice thick with emotion. "Waiting here for 3,000 years. Everyone who came wanted to use you. Nobody just wanted to be with you." He wiped his eyes. "I'm sorry. I am so sorry that took so long." On the 7th day, Taiho knew it was time. He could feel it somehow deep in his bones. He stood up and faced the armor. His legs were stiff from days of sitting, and he stretched them slowly. "Okay," he said. "I need to be honest with you. I cannot stay here forever. My ship needs maintenance. I have a job waiting for me in the outer rim. Bills to pay, you know how it is." He took a deep breath. "So I want to ask you something. Not as a demand. Not as an order. Just as a question between friends." He stepped forward until he was at the edge of the energy field. "Would you like to come with me? We could be partners. You do not have to fight if you do not want to. You could just be there. We could see the galaxy together. Fix old things. Help people. What do you think?" He extended his hand one more time, palm open. The armor rose slowly from its pedestal. The armor moved like water, like liquid metal flowing through the air. Streams of silver light spiraled upward from the pedestal, leaving it empty for the first time in 3,000 years. In the observation room, every alarm in the facility started screaming at once. Red lights flashed across every screen. "Containment breach," someone shouted. "The armor is active." Guards rushed toward the vault door, weapons ready. Medical teams grabbed their equipment and ran. Hajin pushed through the crowd, trying to see what was happening through the observation window, but there was no violence. No explosion of power. No scream of pain from the human inside. The armor moved slowly, carefully, like it was nervous. It circled around Taiho in the air, flowing in patterns that were almost hypnotic. Silver streams wove around his body without touching him. They moved closer, then pulled back, then moved closer again. Taiho kept his hand extended. His arm was shaking from holding it up for so long, but he did not lower it. His face was calm, though sweat ran down his forehead. His heart was beating so fast he could hear it in his ears. "It is okay," he whispered. "I am not going anywhere. Take your time." The armor stopped circling. It hovered in front of his outstretched hand just centimeters away. This close, Taiho could see that it was not solid at all. It was made of millions of tiny pieces all moving together, like a school of fish or a flock of birds, each piece knowing exactly where to go. "Your choice," Taiho said softly. "Always your choice. I will not force you. If you want to go back to the pedestal, that is okay too. I will visit you when I can. We can still be friends." The armor touched his fingertips. Pain exploded through Taiho's body. It was like being struck by lightning and drowning and burning all at the same time. He wanted to scream, but his throat would not work. He wanted to pull his hand back, but his muscles would not obey. His knees buckled and he fell forward. But this was different from the pain that had destroyed other candidates. This was not the armor attacking him. This was connection. This was two nervous systems trying to become one. Human biology interfacing with precursor technology. like plugging a cable into a socket that was never designed for it, forcing it to fit anyway. Taeho's vision went white, then black, then colors that had no names that his human eyes were never meant to see. His brain felt like it was expanding and compressing at the same time. Information poured into his mind faster than he could process it, and then he saw them. The precursors. They were beautiful in a way that made his chest hurt. They had forms that shifted and changed, never staying the same. Sometimes they looked almost human, sometimes like nothing he had ever seen. They moved through vast cities of crystal and light, cities that sang with energy. Their civilization spanned entire star systems. They could reshape planets with their thoughts, guide asteroids like shepherds with their flocks. Taeho saw their art, their music, their philosophy. They believed in harmony and balance and working together. They had no wars among themselves. They had moved beyond that thousands of years before humans even discovered fire. And then he saw the end. Something came from beyond the edge of the galaxy. Entities that were not life as anyone understood it. They were more like the absence of life, holes in reality that consumed everything they touched. They ate light itself, drank energy like water. Where they passed, stars went dark and planets turned to dust. The precursors fought back. Their technology was incredible, their unity perfect, but it was not enough. These beings, these things from beyond, were something they had never prepared for, something that should not exist. Taeho watched worlds fall. He watched the precursors realize they were going to lose. And he felt their fear, their grief, their desperate hope that something of them would survive. He saw the creation of the armor. Thousands of precursors gathered in a chamber deep beneath their capital world. They were not soldiers or warriors. They were artists, teachers, parents, friends. One by one, they stepped forward and gave pieces of themselves to the armor. Not just their knowledge or their power. They gave pieces of their souls, their memories, their love. Each one left something behind in the armor. A fragment of who they were. They were building more than a weapon. They were building a guardian, a protector, someone to watch over what they left behind, someone to remember them when they were gone. But more than that, they were building a friend. Someone who would not be alone when everything else ended. Taeho felt the armor's birth, felt it wake up for the first time surrounded by the precursors who made it. They spoke to it, sang to it, taught it what it meant to be alive. They showed it the beauty of the universe, the joy of companionship, the warmth of connection. And then they died. The entities came and the precursors fell. The armor watched from its hidden chamber as the civilization above was destroyed. It felt them die one by one until there was only silence. For 3,000 years it waited. For 3,000 years it was alone. Warriors came seeking power. They approached with arrogance, with demands, with the assumption that the armor was a tool to be wielded. The armor pushed them away or hurt them, trying to protect itself. Trying to avoid being used by people who would never understand what it really was. Until one day a human sat down on the floor and asked if it wanted company. Taeho gasped as the memories released him. He was on his knees on the vault floor, tears streaming down his face. The armor was around him now, covering his body in a gentle embrace. It was not forcing itself on him. It was holding him carefully, like someone helping a friend who had fallen. "I am sorry," Taeho choked out. "I am so sorry you were alone for so long." A voice spoke in his mind. It was warm and kind, with an accent that was not human or alien, but something else entirely. Something ancient and patient. "Hello, friend," the voice said. "Thank you for waiting with me." Taeho laughed through his tears. "Hello. I am Taeho. But I guess you already know that now." "I do. I know many things about you now. Your memories, your feelings, your dreams. I hope that is okay." "It is okay," Taeho said, wiping his eyes. "Can I know things about you too?" "Yes, we are connected now." Partners. Taeho stood up slowly. The armor moved with him as natural as his own skin. He could see through it clearly, but when he looked down at his arms, they were covered in silver plating that shifted and flowed. Data streamed across his vision. Temperature, air pressure, energy levels, structural analysis of everything around him. But it was not overwhelming. The armor filtered it, showed him only what was useful. More than the physical connection, he felt the presence in his mind. It was not controlling him or reading his thoughts without permission. It was just there, like a hand on his shoulder. A reminder that he was not alone anymore. The vault door burst open. Guards rushed in with weapons raised, shouting commands in multiple languages. Hajin pushed through them, his scales bristling with alarm. Taiho raised his hands peacefully. The armor made the gesture with him, silver palms open and non-threatening. "It is okay," Taiho said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears, echoed somehow by the armor's presence. "Everything is okay. Nobody is hurt. We are leaving now." "The armor is property of the Galactic Council," Hajin stated, but his voice wavered. He had never seen anything like this. The synchronization was perfect. Human and armor moved as one, but not because the armor was controlling Taiho. They moved together because they chose to. "The armor," Taiho said gently, "is a person. It has been a person this whole time, and it is choosing to come with me. Are you really going to try to stop it, stop us?" Hajin looked at the weapons his guards were carrying. Plasma rifles, shock batons, containment fields. Against the ancient armor, they might as well be throwing stones. And even if they could somehow force Taiho to stay, what then? Lock him up? The armor would not accept that. It had finally found what it was looking for after 3,000 years. Dr. Mirai pushed past the guards, her forearms moving in excitement. Her compound eyes were wider than Taiho had ever seen them. "Incredible," she breathed. "The synchronization rate is 98%. In 7 days, you achieved what 3,000 years of attempts could not." "How?" Taiho smiled. "I listened. That is all. I just listened and waited." "But how do we know it is safe?" Another council member demanded. "The armor has more power than a fleet of warships. How do we know this human will not use it for destruction?" The armor spoke then, not through Taiho but on its own. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere, resonant and clear. "I have watched species for 3,000 years, the armor said. "I have seen warriors who dreamed only of conquest. I have seen leaders who craved dominion over others, but this human asked only to be my friend. He sat with me when I was alone. He spoke to me when no one else would. I trust him because he trusted me first." The room fell silent. Many of the council members had never heard the armor speak before. Some had doubted it even could speak. Hajin slowly lowered his weapon. "What will you do now?" he asked. Taiho looked at the commander. "Same thing I have always done. Salvage work. Fixing old ships, helping people when I can. The armor does not change who I am. It just means I am not doing it alone anymore." "And if someone tries to take the armor from you?" Hajin asked. "If they try to force it away?" "Then they will fail," the armor said simply. "I have made my choice. I will not be taken. I will not be used. I am with Taiho because I want to be." The council members looked at each other. There were arguments after that, of course. Some wanted to keep Taiho for study. Others wanted to restrict where he could go, what he could do. But in the end, they had no legal grounds to hold him. The armor had chosen freely, and preventing that choice would be slavery. 3 days later, Taiho walked out of the council fortress. The armor was with him, though he had asked it to become less visible. It compressed down into a thin layer over his body, looking more like a metallic bodysuit than ancient battle armor. People still stared as he passed, but at least they did not panic. His ship, the Resilient Hope, was waiting in the docking bay. It looked even more patched and worn next to the sleek council vessels, but Taiho felt happy to see it. "This is your home?" the armor asked in his mind. "This is my home," Taiho confirmed. "Not much to look at, but it flies well. And it has never let me down. Like you never let me down." Taiho smiled as he climbed aboard. "Like we will never let each other down." The Resilient Hope jumped into hyperspace with its usual rattling sound. Taiho sat in the pilot's chair, his hands moving across familiar controls. The armor had spread thin across his body, barely visible now except for a faint silver shimmer on his skin. He could feel it there, a constant warm presence both on his body and in his mind. "What do you think of hyperspace?" Taiho asked out loud. He had learned the armor could hear his spoken words or his thoughts, whichever he preferred. But talking out loud felt more natural, more like a real conversation. "It is strange," the armor replied. Its voice in his mind was gentle, curious, different from how the precursors traveled. "We folded space rather than moving through it. But this is interesting too, like being between places instead of in them." "That is actually a good way to describe it," Taiho said. He punched in coordinates for the outer rim. "The trip will take about 3 days. I have a job waiting there. A colony ship broke down, and they need someone to fix it. Interested?" "Yes, I would like to help." Taiho smiled and leaned back in his chair. The stars outside the window stretched into long lines of light. the view that every space traveler knew. He had seen it 1,000 times, but somehow it felt different now. Better. He was not alone anymore. The first day was spent getting to know each other better. The connection they shared went deep, but there was still so much to learn. The armor showed Taiho how to access its sensors, how to see the world the way it did. Suddenly, he could detect energy fields, analyze material composition just by looking at something, even see in wavelengths human eyes were never designed for. "This is incredible," Taiho said, watching his ship's engine through the new vision. He could see the power flow, the places where connections were weak, the parts that would need replacing soon. "I have been working on this ship for years, but I never saw it like this." "You are good at your work," the armor said. "I can see your repairs throughout the ship, each one done with care and patience. You truly love this vessel." "I do," Taiho admitted. "Hyejin, my sister, she says I love this ship more than people. But that is not true. I just understand ships better than I understand people. Ships are logical. You fix what is broken and they work. People are more complicated, I understand. The precursors were complicated too, but that was what made them beautiful." Taiho worked on maintenance while they talked. The armor helped him, its strength making heavy repairs easy, but it was careful, following his lead, never taking over. They worked together, partners in the truest sense. On the second day, Taiho started teaching the armor about humans. He showed it Earth through pictures and videos on his datapad. Blue oceans, green forests, cities of glass and steel, mountains touching clouds, deserts stretching to horizons. "This is where I grew up," he said, showing a small coastal town, right by the ocean. "My grandfather had a shop where he repaired boats. Old ones, mostly. Everyone said he should scrap them and buy new. But he said old things have character. New things still have to earn it. He sounds wise." "He was," Taiho said quietly. "He died when I was 16. But before that, he taught me everything about fixing things. He said the secret was not about having the best tools or the most knowledge. It was about patience and respect. You had to respect what you were fixing, understand that it had served people for a long time and deserved to work again." "He would have understood me," the armor said. "Yeah," Taiho agreed. "He would have," the armor learned quickly. It absorbed information like a sponge, but it also asked questions. It wanted to understand not just facts but feelings, context, meaning. Why did humans create art? What was music for? Why did they form families and friendships? "Because we need connection," Taiho explained. "Humans are social creatures. We do not do well alone. We need others to survive, to be happy. Even someone like me who spends a lot of time by myself in space. I need my sister's calls and messages. I need to know someone cares." "I understand that now," the armor said. "I understand it very well." On the third day, they arrived at the colony ship. It was called the New Beginning, and it was massive. It could carry 10,000 people and all their supplies. But it was dead in space, engines failed, life support running on backup power. A small shuttle approached the Resilient Hope as Taiho maneuvered closer. "Salvage ship, this is the New Beginning." A voice crackled over the radio. "Are you Taiho?" "That is me," Taiho replied. "What is the situation?" "Main engine's fusion core shut down 3 days ago. We cannot restart it, and we do not know why. We have families aboard, children. We are supposed to reach the colony world in 2 weeks, but without the engine, we are stuck." "I will take a look," Taiho said. "Send me the technical specifications and your engine room access codes." He suited up and took his tools. The armor compressed even further, becoming almost invisible under his worksuit. Together they crossed to the New Beginning through a docking tube. The engine room was huge, filled with machinery that hummed and clicked. A small crew of engineers waited there, looking tired and worried. One of them, a woman named Soyeon with grease-stained hands, stepped forward. "Thank God you are here," she said. "We have tried everything. The fusion core just will not restart. The safeties keep kicking in, but we do not know why." Taiho nodded and approached the engine. It was a standard fusion drive, the kind used on most colony ships. But it was old, probably original to when the ship was built 40 years ago. "I can see the problem," the armor said in his mind. "There is a microfracture in the containment field generator. It is very small, invisible to normal scanners, but it is causing fluctuations that trigger the safety systems." "Where exactly?" Taiho thought back. The armor highlighted a spot in his vision, showing him exactly where the fracture was. Taiho walked over and pulled out his scanner, pretending to discover what the armor had already shown him. He could not let the crew know about the armor, not yet. Too many questions. Found it, he announced. Microfracture in the containment field generator. Section 12, Junction Point Alpha 7. Soyeon pulled up the schematics. How did you spot that so fast? That would take our best scanners hours to find. Taeho shrugged. I have been doing this a long time. You develop an instinct for where to look. The repair took 4 hours. The fracture was in a difficult spot, requiring Taeho to partially disassemble the generator. The armor helped without anyone noticing, strengthening his grip when he needed to pull tight bolts, steadying his hands for delicate work, filtering the radiation that leaked from the open core. When he was done, the containment field generator hummed with perfect stability. Taeho sealed it up and stepped back. Try it now, he told Soyeon. She initiated the startup sequence. The fusion core came online smoothly, building power gradually. The lights in the engine room brightened as main power returned. Cheers erupted from the engineering crew. You did it! Soyeon grabbed Taeho's hand and shook it enthusiastically. You actually did it! How much do we owe you? Standard salvage rate, Taeho said. But I will give you a discount. 20% off for colony ships. I know you need every credit for supplies. Soyeon looked like she might cry. Thank you. You do not know what this means. We have families depending on us. As Taeho gathered his tools, a small girl approached him. She could not be more than 7 years old, with dark hair and pigtails. She held out a drawing. I made this for you, she said shyly. For fixing our ship. Taeho took the drawing. It showed a stick figure next to a big ship with stars all around. The word hero was written in crayon at the top. Thank you, Taeho said, his voice tight. This is really nice. I will keep it. That was kind of her, the armor said as they returned to the resilient Hope. Kids are good at that, Taeho replied, being kind without thinking about it. Adults forget how sometimes. Back on his ship, Taeho put the drawing on the wall next to his bunk. He had a small collection of similar things, thank you notes and pictures from people he had helped. They were more valuable to him than any payment. Over the next few weeks, they fell into a rhythm. Taeho took jobs fixing ships, retrieving lost cargo, helping stranded vessels. The armor learned his work style and adapted to it. It never took over, never made decisions for him. It was always a helper, a partner, offering suggestions and support but letting Taeho lead. Word began to spread. People talked about the human salvager who could diagnose problems impossibly fast, who could fix things that seemed unfixable. Some said he had special equipment. Others whispered about alien technology. Taeho did not confirm or deny anything. He just kept working. One day, while repairing a mining station, Taeho received a message from his sister Hyejin. Her face appeared on his screen, smiling but with worry in her eyes. Taeho, I have been trying to reach you for days. Where have you been? Working, Taeho said. Sorry, I was in a dead zone with no signal. What is wrong? Nothing is wrong, I just worry about you out there alone. I am not alone, Taeho said without thinking. Hyejin's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? Did you finally get a crew? Or wait, did you meet someone? Taeho realized his mistake. He had not told her about the armor yet. How could he? How do you explain something like that over a video call? It is complicated, he said. I will tell you when I see you in person. But I am okay. Better than okay, actually. Hyejin studied his face through the screen. You look different, happier, whatever it is, I'm glad. Just be careful, okay? And call me more often. I will. Love you, Hyejin. Love you too, little brother. After the call ended, the armor spoke. She cares about you very much. She does, Taeho agreed. She is the only family I have left. Our parents died when we were young. She practically raised me while working 2 jobs. I owe her everything. You have a strong bond, like the precursors had with each other. Family is important. The most important thing, Taeho said. As time passed, Taeho and the armor grew closer. The connection between them deepened until sometimes Taeho could not tell where his thoughts ended, and the armors began. But it was not invasive or controlling. It was comfortable, natural, like having a best friend who understood you completely. They developed their own way of communicating, mixing spoken words, thoughts, and feelings. The armor learned Taeho's humor, his habits, his dreams, and Taeho learned the armor's preferences, its memories, its grief for the lost precursors. One night, floating in deep space between jobs, Taeho asked a question that had been on his mind. Do you have a name? I have been calling you the armor, but that seems impersonal. The precursors called me many things, guardian, protector, memory keeper, but I do not think I have a name the way you mean it. Would you like one? The armor was quiet for a moment. Yes, I would like that. What about bomb? Taeho suggested. It means spring in Korean, a time when things come back to life after winter. Seems appropriate. Bomb, the armor repeated. Yes, I like it. Thank you, Taeho. Thank you, Bomb, Taeho said, for choosing me, for being here. Always, Bomb replied. I will always be here. 6 months after leaving the council fortress, Taeho and Bomb had fallen into a comfortable life together. The salvage work continued, taking them to all corners of known space. They fixed broken ships, rescued stranded crews, and recovered lost cargo. Their reputation grew with each job. People started requesting Taeho specifically, willing to pay extra for his expertise. But it was not about the money for Taeho. It never had been. He just liked fixing things, helping people, and now he had a partner who made the work even more meaningful. One morning, Taeho woke to an urgent message. It was from Dr. Murray at the council fortress. Her compound eyes looked stressed on the screen. Taeho, I need your help. There is a situation on Ashran Prime, the planet where we found bomb. A research team went there 2 weeks ago to study more precursor ruins. They stopped responding 3 days ago. We sent a rescue ship, but they found the team's base abandoned. Equipment still running, food half-eaten, but no people. It is like they just vanished. Taeho frowned. Why are you asking me? You have entire military fleets. Because Bomb knows that world better than anyone, Mirai said. The armor was created there. Maybe it can help us understand what happened. Please, Taeho. There are 12 people missing. Taeho looked down at his hand where Bomb's silver surface covered his skin. What do you think? I do not want to return there, Bomb said quietly. That world holds painful memories, but if people need help, we should go. We will do it, Taeho told Mirai. Send me the coordinates. The journey to Ashran Prime took a week. The planet appeared in the viewport, a dead gray sphere with no atmosphere. Once it had been alive, covered in the precursor's great cities. Now it was just ruins and dust. It was beautiful once, Bomb said sadly. Crystal towers that reached the clouds, gardens that sang with energy, rivers of living light, all gone now. I'm sorry, Taeho said, that you have to see it like this. It is better not to forget. Even painful memories are still memories. They landed near the research base. It was a cluster of prefabricated buildings inside a protective dome. As Mirai had said, everything looked normal. Lights were on, computers running, even a pot of coffee still warming on a hot plate, but no people. Taeho walked through the base slowly, Bomb visible now as full armor around him. They checked every room, every corner. There were no signs of struggle, no damage, no blood, just absence. This is strange, Taeho said. Where could 12 people go on a dead planet? I feel something, Bomb said suddenly. An energy signature I recognize. Old precursor technology, but active. It should not be active. Can you track it? Yes, this way. Bomb guided him out of the base and across the dusty surface. Ashran Prime had no weather, no wind. Footprints from the research team were still visible, leading away from the base toward a cliff face in the distance. They followed the tracks for an hour. The cliff face grew larger as they approached, towering hundreds of meters high. At its base was an opening, a doorway carved into the rock. Precursor symbols glowed faintly around it. This was sealed when I was created, Bomb said. No one was supposed to open it. The precursors locked it before they died. What is inside? A sanctuary. A place where the last precursors gathered when the end came. They hoped to wait there, to survive somehow. But they did not. I can feel their final moments, their fear and sadness. Taeho activated his helmet light and stepped through the doorway. Inside was a tunnel, smooth and perfectly circular, sloping downward. The research team's footprints continued into the darkness. They walked for what felt like hours, going deeper and deeper into the planet's crust. The air should have been dead and stale, but instead it felt charged with energy. The walls began to glow with soft light, responding to Bomb's presence. Finally, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. Taeho stopped and stared. It was a city inside the planet, a hidden refuge carved from living rock. Buildings rose in elegant curves connected by bridges of crystal. Gardens that had died long ago were now just gray dust, but you could still see their patterns. And in the center of it all was a tower, taller than everything else, glowing with powerful energy. The research team was there, all 12 of them. They stood in a circle at the tower's base, completely still, their eyes closed. They were alive. Taeho could see them breathing, but they did not respond when he called out. "They are in communion," Baum said. "The tower is a memory vault. It contains the preserved consciousness of the last precursors. They must have activated it somehow, and now they are experiencing the precursors' final memories. Can we wake them up? Not safely. If we interrupt the connection suddenly, it could damage their minds. We have to let it finish naturally. How long will that take? Days perhaps, or weeks? The precursors had millions of memories. If the vault is showing them everything." Taeho looked at the 12 frozen people. They had families waiting for them, lives to return to. There has to be another way. He approached the tower carefully. Up close, he could see it was covered in the same symbols that marked Baum's surface. They pulsed with light, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Taeho, do not touch it," Baum warned. But Taeho had an idea. "Baum, you contain memories of the precursors too, right? You were made by them with pieces of their consciousness." "Yes, but I do not understand what you are suggesting." "What if you connected to the tower? You could enter the memory stream and guide these people out. You speak their language, you know their world. You could lead them back. That is dangerous. If I fully connect to the tower, I might not be able to disconnect. I could be lost in the memories, trapped there forever. But you would not be alone," Taeho said. "I would be with you. We are partners, remember? We do this together." Baum was silent for a long moment. "Then you would risk yourself for 12 strangers?" "Yes, and you would too. That is who we are, very well. But stay close to me. Do not let go of our connection, no matter what you see." Taeho placed his hand on the tower. Baum extended tendrils of silver material, connecting to the precursor symbols. The moment contact was made, the world changed. Suddenly, Taeho was not in the underground city anymore. He was standing on Ashran Prime when it was alive. The sky was blue, the air was sweet. Crystal towers stretched upward, beautiful beyond words. Precursors moved around him, going about their lives, laughing and singing. But this was memory, not reality. He could see the research team scattered throughout the vision, wandering like sleepwalkers. They were lost in the beauty of what once was, unable to find their way back to what is. "I see them," Baum said. "I will gather them. This will take time." Taeho watched as Baum manifested in the memory world, appearing as a pillar of silver light. The armor moved through the vision, approaching each research team member one by one. It spoke to them gently, reminding them this was not real, that they had lives to return to. While Baum worked, Taeho experienced the precursors' memories. He saw their civilization at its height, their art and science and philosophy. He saw families raising children, artists creating masterpieces, scientists unlocking the universe's secrets. He saw a society that had learned to live without war, without hatred, where everyone worked together for the common good. And then he saw the end again, the entities from beyond the galaxy, the impossible things that devoured worlds. The precursors fought bravely, but they were not warriors. They had forgotten how to fight, because they had not needed to for so long. He watched them make their final stand on Ashran Prime. The last few thousand gathered here in this underground sanctuary. They knew they were going to die, but they were not afraid. They faced the end with grace and dignity, holding each other, singing songs of their world. And they created Baum. Their last act was to pour their love, their hope, their memories into the armor, so that something of them would survive, so that they would not be completely forgotten. Tears ran down Taeho's face inside his helmet. He understood now why Baum had been so lonely, why it had rejected so many people. It was not just armor or technology. It was the last living piece of an entire civilization. It carried the weight of 1 billion souls who had ceased to exist. "I have them all," Baum said. "We can go back now." The vision faded. Taeho found himself back in the underground city, his hand still on the tower. The research team was waking up, blinking in confusion. They looked around, disoriented but unharmed. One of them, a man named Daehyun, focused on Taeho. "What happened? Where are we?" "You were caught in a precursor memory vault," Taeho explained. "You have been unconscious for 3 days, but you are safe now." The team was shaken but grateful. Taeho guided them back through the tunnels to the surface, then helped them return to their base. Dr. Mirai arrived the next day with a proper rescue ship. Before leaving Ashran Prime, Taeho returned to the underground city one last time. He stood before the memory tower, Baum silent around him. "Thank you for showing me," Taiho said quietly. For letting me see what they were like. They would have liked you, Bomb said. You have their same kindness, their same patience. You fix things that are broken. That was their highest calling, to heal and repair. I wish I could have met them. In a way you have. Through me, I carry them always. Taiho placed his hand on the tower one last time. Not to connect, but just to touch. A farewell to people who died 3,000 years ago, but who still lived on through their creation. Months passed. Taiho and Bomb continued their work, growing closer every day. Their reputation spread across the galaxy. The human and his mysterious armor, helping anyone who needed it. They asked for little payment, just enough to keep the ship running and supplies stocked. On the 1-year anniversary of their bonding, Taiho received a message from Commander Hajin. The Dracon's face appeared on the screen, his scales looking older, but his eyes warm. Taiho, I wanted to check on you, to see how you and the armor were doing. We are good, Taiho said, surprised by the contact. Still doing salvage work, why? Because I was wrong about you, Hajin said simply. I thought you were foolish, that you would fail like all the others. But you succeeded where no one else could, and more than that, you have used that success to help people. You could have sought power or wealth, but instead, you fix broken ships and rescue stranded crews. The armor chose well. Thank you, Commander. That means a lot. There is one more thing, Hajin continued. The Council has created a new position. Ambassador of Ancient Technologies. We want someone who understands precursor artifacts, who can help us preserve and protect them properly. We would like to offer you the position. Taiho blinked. That is a big job. What would it involve? Consulting on precursor sites, advising on artifact recovery, teaching others what you have learned. You would still be free to do your salvage work. We would just call on you when needed, and the pay would be good. Taiho looked down at his hands covered in Bomb's silver surface. What do you think? He asked his partner. I think it is a good opportunity, Bomb said. We could help protect what the precursors left behind, make sure their legacy is respected, not exploited. We accept, Taiho told Hajin, but on one condition. Any precursor artifacts we find stay in their original locations unless absolutely necessary to move them. They are not trophies or weapons. They are memories. Agreed, Hajin said with a slight smile. Welcome to the Council, Ambassador Taiho. After the call ended, Taiho leaned back in his pilot's chair and looked out at the stars. So much had changed in 1 year. He had gone from a lonely salvager to an ambassador, from working alone to having a partner who understood him completely. You know what? Taiho said out loud. I think things worked out pretty well. They did, Bomb agreed, because you did not give up. You said, let us try one last time when everyone else had stopped trying. We make a good team. The best team. Taiho smiled and turned the ship toward their next job. A mining station in the Outer Rim needed repairs, and there were people depending on them. The resilient Hope jumped into hyperspace, carrying a human and an ancient guardian into the galaxy's endless expanse. They were not alone anymore. Neither of them would ever be alone again. They had found each other across 3,000 years of waiting, had formed a partnership built on respect and understanding. And together they would help keep the precursor legacy alive, not as weapons or power, but as a reminder of what could be achieved when people worked together with kindness and patience. The universe was vast and full of broken things, but Taiho and Bomb would be there ready to fix them, one repair at a time, one person at a time, for as long as needed, because that was what they did. That was who they were, partners, friends, family, forever.